All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Malcolm Eugene. You know what it is. It's June.
Yeah, it's June.
You know what that means?
No, what?
It's Men's Health Awareness Month.
There it is.
So I found a cool little video that talks about shadow work, which shadow work is a way to look at your flaws and your dark sides and kind of address them.
Absolutely.
And accept them, of course, but found a dope little video by a guy who's really, really deep into this kind of stuff, and I just wanted to kind of do a reaction to it. It's very interesting. So without further ado, stop chasing better, start doing shadow work.
Excuse the informal setup here. I lost my mic stand. This is what Gen Z's doing, right? Holding the microphone as close to their mouth as they can get. I want to talk to you about shadow work. Okay, this is a very important subject. If you don't know what that is, you're in the right spots. And if you know what it is, we're going to take a different angle on it today. I've seen a lot of habits and patterns, two main problems, so to speak. One of the problems with self-improvement is that as soon as you learn what you should be doing, I should be getting up early, I should be taking cold showers, I should be pounding a green smoothie all before 5 a.m. It sort of gives you this mental checklist that if you don't do everything on that list, now that's ammunition that can work against you and you can self-attack on. So what's supposed to be a positive almost can work against you at a point. But the second way, and this one's more prevalent, the longer you're in this space, there comes an upper limit to how much you can improve. I've seen it in our metamorphic program, people who are starting at zero, reinventing themselves, go to 50, 60, 70% of their potential, 80% of their potential really, really fast. So you're like, what's the problem? Many people make the mistake that when they get to 80%, 90% on their journey of self-improvement, that they're done. You are missing the other half of the picture. You might be like, what's the difference? The self-improvement side is half the journey, but the other side, this is self-healing, self-acceptance. If you never focus.
That's very, very true.
It is.
I feel like even me for the longest time, I've always been about improving myself and trying to get better, become better, getting better at making videos, getting better at doing photography, getting better at just being able to reach my goals at the gym. But I've never looked at myself and I'm like, you know what? I'm okay.
Well, I think it's because you have the same thing. When people that are very driven and ambitious, we get so caught up in that aspect.
Right.
We find the negative things will start parts of ourselves.
Right.
And we're like, all right, that's something that's not acceptable. And I know I need to address this. And sometimes we do work on it.
Right.
But it gets to a point to where it's just like, you need to learn, like he's saying. Like, I never thought about this too. I mean, I have a little bit, but to really accept that, you know what? This is not, it's not a bad thing. I shouldn't be ashamed of this part of me. I shouldn't.
Right.
I need to learn to embrace this more, a little bit more, and not sit here and just try to fight the dragon.
Right.
And kill the dragon.
And the thing is, I'm always fighting the dragon. Yeah. That's kind of...
It's part of it. It's always there. That's what it is. Especially those of us who tame it, learn to control it.
Right.
So most of us, we learn to suppress it.
Right.
That's something
men do a lot.
We repress the monster. We keep it down inside, and that's a great way of looking at it, is acceptance. I like that.
Something's always going to be off. Self-improvement is finding energy through getting somewhere. Self-acceptance is finding peace where you are, enjoying the now, being in the moment, loving yourself, not for what you do, but just simply who you are. There's an upper limit to the amount of self-improvement, but there's no upper limit to the amount of self-acceptance. There's a massive benefit for focusing on both. It comes down to three things. When anything is uncomfortable and there is tension, you will suppress it, escape it, or project it. Suppression is one of the most common ones. This is consciously done, where you have something negative about yourself, a negative thought, a negative belief, a negative pattern, and instead of going into it and letting go of it, or working through it, or talking it through, we push it down and we say, nope, not today, buddy, not gonna look at that.
I think that's most,
yeah.
especially men, I would say. Definitely one of the biggest things is we think something, we're like, hey, regardless of how we were raised, what we've been shown on social media, upbringing.
Right.
We're like, hey, okay, I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these feelings. No, I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to be judged and I don't want to be looked as being weak.
Right.
I don't want people to think less of me. I don't want people to treat me differently. So let me sit here and swallow it down.
Well, I'm in a place so I'm talking to somebody right now and she's really encouraging me to face the thing. So I'm really keen on, running from my past.
So the escape aspect of
it?
The
escape aspect. So okay. I'm really keen on, if I'm talking to someone new, run away with me.
Okay.
So this is probably the first time where it's like, let's stop, let's turn around, let's face what's behind you.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's been a very, very, I've been in a place of growth where I thought I had completed my shadow work journey last year, but little did I know that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, and it's incredible that you find somebody that's wanting for you to bring more of yourself out, expose more of yourself, and be courageous in facing it.
It's been very, very introspective, and I've loved and hated what I've learned, but the thing about it is it's a journey that had to happen. So
yeah, it's necessary.
Image to illustrate this that works very well is if you think of a trash can and you throw a piece of trash in there. Well, if you keep doing that over and over again, it's going to get full. And so if you're like most of us, instead of taking out the trash, you'll put a paper towel on it and you'll push it down because then you have more room to throw more trash on and you never have to take it out. But you do have to take it out. Otherwise, it's going to stink up your whole house. There comes a point where that thing is full. No matter how much you push it down, it's heavy. The bag's going to rip. It's going to be a mess. That is what we do to the uncomfortable emotions, views of ourselves, beliefs, self-doubts, is anytime we're suppressing it, we're just pushing it down in that trash can. There comes a time, though, where it's stinking up your own internal state. You have to take it out. This is what is called letting go. This is journaling. This is therapy. This is modalities like shadow work. It's metaphorically not running.
Yeah, that's all right. That journaling aspect, back during 2019, 2020, especially when I was going through very dark times.
Yeah.
It was very therapeutic. I committed to 30 minutes to an hour a day of meditating, writing, planning my day out.
Okay.
And basically, the biggest things when we have lists, I find, is making two big things you're going to do. So working out, no matter what. I'm going to work out.
Non-negotiable. That's
exactly. And one other big thing you're going to tackle. And then the rest of it, you plan it, but don't let your life hinge upon it. Because we're big on lists. And then when you see these huge lists, it's overwhelming. So I got away from that for the last, I would say, year and a half or so, too. So just yesterday, 100%, we didn't plan any of this shit. It's ironic that this came up because I started journaling again yesterday and doing the same thing, the cold showers, getting back into that.
Yeah.
And it's weird that ironically, this is all happening.
Right.
At the same point.
It's the universe, baby.
It is, man. So journaling, I agree. Journaling is essential.
I started journaling, I would say, late last week. I was like, I downloaded this app on the phone. I was like, all right, let me just start writing something every single day. But throwback, though. I remember when you first started journaling back in the day.
I've lost it, too. That's the sad part. I moved and I lost I should have got an app on the phone. That's what I should have done.
I remember that. It was some great stuff.
I lost it.
But it's dead to us.
Yeah,
It's dead.
It is, but it's just, journaling is so essential because you're not going to remember everything you're going through right now.
Right.
Or what you've been through or whatever. I try to catch myself up in the last few months, especially if all right, I got a little bit to catch up on, at least the highlights of it.
Right.
And then from then on, you stick with it because how are you going to know how far you come? We're good at kind of remembering things, but our memories are distorted. Other things get confused in it. We pull it.
We measure that usually by our achievements, but we don't look at the emotional growth aspect. And this is kind of how we track that now.
Exactly. So it's been very helpful. And also, when you sit there and you write, and like I said, when you write, you can still type or whatever. When you do that, like you're saying, you internalize. You take a moment to really sit there and you're like, man, you go through things.
Yeah.
And you go through them. You don't sit there and you don't intake everything. You don't take time to really reflect on like, wow, this happened. I survived and incurred and dealt with all that. And in spite of all that, I'm still here.
Right.
We're all still here. The person you're dealing with, in spite of finding out these flaws about you, in spite of all these things these insecurities, and you let them in, They're not using it. They're not weaponizing it.
Right.
They're not making you feel less. They're not making you feel shame.
It feels amazing.
Yes, and it's scary at first because you're like, yo, who sent you? Did another one of these people send you to destroy me? Is this what it is? To get a weapon to destroy?
It's you have your guard up.
Yeah, exactly, because good shit's happening. Especially as dudes, you're not used to good shit happening. So you're like, dude, this isn't going to last. So you do this, we run. Right. We escape, we push people away.
Right.
So like he's saying, journaling, it's definitely helpful. I agree.
I think this is specifically hard for men. We tend to suppress a lot more. Talk to the typical guy, they'll tell you, I haven't cried in 10 years. The gym is my therapy. I don't need to journal. I don't need to talk. Now, I'm not saying you turn down and shut off your masculine drive, but it's hard to have a strong masculine drive if you're in fear. And suppression is based in fear. It's a fear that if you look at it, it's going to break you. So ironically, running from it and not looking at it, turning a blind eye, that's not a masculine act because that's based in fear. Escape. This is probably the most common because it's easiest to do. Video games, food, drinking. I'm not saying you can never watch TV, play video games, or do anything you want to do as a functioning adult. It's only a problem if you're running. And as someone who is recently sober of 400 plus days,
I would say when it comes to escape, my biggest escape has usually been like gym therapy and music.
Yeah, I get it.
So working myself to death or just drowning myself out in some tunes that make me feel however. But I've never been one to turn to like drugs or alcohol as escape. And I know that is something that is very, very common. Not just with men, no. A lot of people have done that, and that's their life.
Sex, everything. You do whatever in whatever way is going to make you feel good,
right,
and take you away from it. Temporary escape because your reality is miserable and
the dopamine overdose.
Exactly. So I mean, same thing with me. After everything, I poured myself. I was going to the gym 7 times a week, training twice a day. I was living at the gym for 8 to 10 hours a day. I intentionally, because I'm one of those people that I refuse to project. I won't do the projection, but I would rather hurt myself and do anything to do.
Right.
So when I felt that aggression or that anger that I felt towards people, and because I knew that I was wrong for it, I'd rather take it out on myself.
Right. You put yourself through that pain. You work yourself. For me, I would overwork myself and to make myself feel better. It's coping. It was a weird coping mechanism.
A good question to ask yourself now is, what are your escapes? And just notice yourself when you're escaping. Why are you escaping? What's the emotion that you're running from? What's the thought or the discomfort that boiled down you're trying to escape from? And lastly, projection. After all, it's easier to put the spotlight on other people than yourself. And a lot of people do this subconsciously. I think that projection is one of the reasons cancel culture really took off, because a lot of the people who were leading the charge on canceling other people, it comes out later that they were doing the same thing, or they had something similar in their past that they were trying to cancel the person for.
That's interesting.
The projection, it was, well, actually, you could almost put like deflecting. You're deflecting the behavior because you're just as guilty of the hypocrisy.
Right.
And that's an interesting way, man.
You see that in modern politics. Like if you pay attention to anything going on in the news, whether it's with Trump or the left or whatever, you see a lot of hypocrisy from both sides when it comes to
Absolutely, because they never really address what it is. It's easier to attack and antagonize the other side,
right,
to elicit a response out of them to get them out of power. Well, see what I mean? There they go. Let's outburst. See, they're doing what they're doing. The left doing what they do. The right doing what they do. But okay, you still never answered my original question when I asked you.
Right.
What are your thoughts? What about this we discovered about you? What about that? So you're trying to say your evil is less than the evil they're doing.
Right. Or
Got it.
On the flip side, it's the comparing of traumas.
Yes, that too.
So,
see?
I understand.
Is look at those 3 and take inventory of which one you use more frequently. Now you have the awareness of what you're doing. Oh, I'm escaping because I feel bored. Oh, I'm projecting because that's something I need to deal with. Oh, I'm suppressing it and I need to go in and let go of some of these stories that are no longer serving me. If all you did is that right there, and every time one of those 3 comes up and you dive into it instead of running from it, that's how you're going to develop some more self-acceptance. That's how you're going to develop some self-healing, which is the other side, not just the self-improvement. Here are my 4 favorite techniques that I've used that have helped me immensely. For every one person that's given you some tough feedback, there's probably been 100 people that have thought that, but have just been too nice to tell us. So what's a piece of feedback that...
Yeah, I believe that, because I've heard some tough things about myself over the past few days. I'm like, man, kind of wish you would have told me that before, but...
Well, things also happen when they need to happen. You needed to hear it not then, but now after you've had some self-reflection time and you've been doing the studying.
Right.
So that's a big thing for me, is I truly believe things happen when they need to. Things don't happen when we want them to.
Right.
They happen when they need to. You had to have that tough conversation. You had to watch some things. You had to get to a place that, because imagine, had this person, these people told you this stuff maybe a couple weeks back, would have meant the same.
Right.
Would it went one in one ear, another? No, this person's a hater. Or this person's projecting. Or you are trying to self-analyze them.
Or I didn't have a reason to know.
Exactly. So you don't wish for that. It's just it happened when it needed to. That's all it is. And the fact is that you were able to take the criticism. Right. People look at job reviews and stuff. People take those things, or when someone tells them something so personally that it affects them forever. Oh, how dare they say that? Not understanding that it's a critique on something you're doing, your work or a personal character trait.
Right.
There's some truth in it. Especially if, like he's saying, if there's one person saying it, people are just usually polite enough to say, hey, you come off as being a bit obnoxious.
Right.
And sometimes you come off as a bit dismissive.
Right.
Or you seem to be very obtuse in a lot of situations.
Right.
And you don't want to be seen as, because no one wants to be seen in bad lights, in bad situations. You want to be seen as the most progressive, open-minded, introspective, thoughtful person as possibly.
Right.
But it's not. You're not. A lot of people are. And so it's
the ego versus the shadow at that point.
See, absolutely. And that ego with the persona, like we've discussed here, becomes a big aspect of you. As much as you talk about other people, you've got to learn to check yourself in and just realize, you know what? All right, they gave me something to work with. It's acceptance.
Right.
I mean, not automatically stream to the self-improvement, because that's what we do. The same thing that you do.
Right.
I want to improve it. Okay, if they told me this aspect, I need to improve on this aspect. Not saying, no, where's this stemming from?
Yeah, where's this coming from? How do I correct it? You got to face it, because if you end up using the escape,
because it's an escape.
Aspect,
it is still an escape.
You're gonna run, and I've ran for years, and I'm finally dealing with shit. So it feels great. So.
Second thing, this is keeping a journal, something I've talked about and made videos on this channel on. Hands down, one of my favorite forms of shadow work, introspection. So many different techniques you can do, but one of my favorite questions to ask myself in here is, what am I avoiding? What are you suppressing, repressing, escaping from, or projecting? Another one you might consider is, what advice would I give someone else in my exact same situation? The third is developing a mindfulness meditation practice. I feel like it gives you a 10% boost in your patience, your compassion.
So I have started meditating, and it's funny, I was talking to a few people. I've been kind of on a Viking or Nordic music kick, because I find that to be a bit more therapeutic than listening to lo-fi lately. Yeah. But it's been nice focusing on your breathing, just being able to be in the moment, clear your mind, clear your thoughts. Sometimes you just, because we live in a very, very fast-paced society.
Absolutely. There's a lot of stimulus out here.
Right. Whether it was social media, all that stuff.
Work, projects, obligations, responsibilities. You're getting pulled all these different directions, and we don't take time to...
Take time for yourself.
Exactly. Because how are you going to be as productive as possible if you're constantly... Right. I'm not saying we don't need to be productive, but like he's stating, mindfulness. I've been doing that myself, taking 30 minutes to an hour a day, just taking time and just reminding myself, okay, it's great that we're pursuing all this. It's great that we have a plan. It's great that we're better than what we were yesterday and the previous years. That's great. But let's be grateful for the situations that we're in. We like, hey, we have an opportunity. We've met extraordinary people. We know extraordinary people. Right. You know, how far I've come, how far they've come. We're all part of a network, a node, and we're all connected. And for me to be as effective as possible, I need to take time to take this all in, breathe. Right. Take it in. So.
And the last one is done with someone, whether it's finding a therapist, whether it's working with an energy healer, or whatever route you want to take with it. It unlocks a lot for you working with someone there to work.
Have you actually been looking into that, or have you been
I haven't. I know that's something that men we really struggle with, as far as like, one thing's going to the doctor, another thing's going to a doctor for how you are thinking.
That is absolutely, because it's seen again as a weak thing, because you're going to a shrink or a therapist or something, and maybe you don't need to look at it that way, or maybe coaching, mentorship, and that's the route I've been looking into, thinking about is networking with people that are into things that are similar interests that can help me, and that's that aspect of it. So the business and other financial advising and all that stuff, mentoring and coaching there, and then the other side of it, the spirituality and the development, is finding something or someone that's gonna help me kind of channel that out. That's the biggest thing, accepting that I need it.
Yeah, it's hard to accept that, but that's a part of the healing process. You can't do it yourself, No. So I've said this once before, but I'll say it again. It's okay to ask for help. It is okay to ask for help.
You through it. The kind that I have found the most benefit from has been a type of shadow work I call inner shadow shifting. So what inner shadow shifting does is it unlocks the positive intent behind seemingly negative actions or stories that are deep rooted in your subconscious. Remember that there is a cap to the self-improvement, but there is no cap to the self-healing. And instead of trying to get confidence through tactics or habits or books or ideas,
this video kind of gives me like callback to when we had Matt on and we were talking about toxic masculinity and how men have these wounds, and the wounds are we suppress all this shit. So it's funny how everything has kind of gone full circle now. Within a year, 2 years, we've learned so much and are able to have new perspective on things. It's amazing. I mean, that's a part of the journey, and it's a good journey to be on.
Absolutely. And as much as we preach, especially with Men's Health Month going on and everything, guys, we, like we speak, financially, you want to be sound. It feels good. Physically, having those physical attributes, investing in gyms, investing in coaching and stuff like that. Well, there's another aspect to it now, the mental health aspect. Right. So investing in the mentorship, the therapy, the programming that's going to assist with that, it's part of it, guys. You can't, for anybody who doesn't believe your body and mind are connected, is foolish. It's all connected in one. If you can't put your foot in one side of the pool and understand that there's this whole other side of the pool that you're not dealing with. So this is a big part of it, guys. It's accepting that that you're not what you could be, and these tools are useful and helpful for you. Exactly. And that's all this channel is trying to instill in all of us, not just men, but in everybody. It's the aim to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's all we're trying to do.
So with that said, shout out to Clark Kegley. Sorry if I butchered your name.
Yeah.
We'll tag his video down in the description below, but make sure you leave a like on this video and kind of just let us know what you're going through. Let us know if this video helped you out. If you have any suggestions for us, we're open to suggestions for content.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, I'm Malcolm Eugene.
Will Robertson here.
This is Social Sabotage. Make sure you subscribe.
Yes. We're out here, guys.
Outro. And thumbnail. Why do you look more...
Oh, you're right.